Okay, so it's that time of year again when you're starting colts, and some of you with older horses are putting them back in snaffles, so I thought I'd make a video explaining a few snaffles that I have and ones that I think are a good buy if you're just getting into it. So there's 3 snaffles in front of me in different price points. This first one, and I will tell you some of these makers, this is a Reinsman. This is probably in the 50 to 60 buck range, sometimes lower, and it's a D-ring. And then this middle one here is a Bob Avila. Long story short, this is made by Professional's Choice, so you can find these in a lot of places, a great snaffle. And then this last one is a Tom Balding snaffle. These 2 middle ones are O-ring snaffles, and I'm just going to give a brief description of why I would start with one of those and why I wouldn't. But when you're going to look for a snaffle, especially if you're going to go to buy one, you need to decide kind of what your price point is. You can spend a lot of money on this piece of equipment, and you certainly shouldn't take that decision lightly, but you also don't need to break the bank. And so this one over here is definitely one of my all-time favorite snaffles. This is a Tom Balding O-ring snaffle. There's a lot I can say about this, a few things that I'll just mention. This connection where the ring is at to the mouthpiece is nice and clean and clear. That's something when I go and look at a bit, unfortunately I look there first. If there's a big gap there, that's going to pinch their cheek, and especially on a piece of tack like this where you're moving it a lot two-handed, the likelihood of you pinching them is higher than maybe something that's just a shank bridle that you're not moving as much. So that's this first one. I really like it. That one's in the 150 plus range, and so if you're starting a lot of colts and you think of that as a good investment for your program, go ahead and go there. Otherwise, I would stick to one of these more budget type ones. And so the reason why I would pick this middle one over this D-ring, there's a couple reasons. One, this is a weighted snaffle, and you can see the connection here is maybe not as clean. There's just a little bit more of a gap. And if you're wondering at home if that's going to pinch a horse or not, stick your finger there and move the mouthpiece a little bit. If it pinches your finger, it could pinch the mouth of a horse. So that's just a quick test. But I would use this O-ring because it's heavy and because it's got some pre-signal, and I'll kind of explain what happens there. When you pull with one hand on a snaffle, the more rigid the snaffle is, the quicker it's going to come into the corner of their mouth or across their tongue. And so usually O-rings are a great place to start, because by the time that you pull on your rein, the ring might move before you even get to the mouthpiece, so it kind of tells them something's coming. Versus like a D-ring like this, that as soon as you go to pull on the rein, you've got them by the cheek, everything like that. And so this O-ring, because it is slower and weighted, I think is a great buy, a great place to start for someone who's just going to go and buy a snaffle. This O-ring, when you have it in contact with them, is technically weightless as far as what's on their hanger. Of course, your hands are putting weight on them, but as soon as you drop your reins, because of the weight, it drops away from their mouth. And so I think this here is very, very clear, and you can ride in this for a long, long time. You might choose to go to something else over time if you feel like this maybe they're ignoring, or it's honestly just not doing as much. And in another video we can talk about what's a good time and when's a good time to switch a horse out. So then I'll talk about this D-ring real quick. There's nothing wrong with starting a horse in a D-ring snaffle. The reason why I don't like to, for the most part, is that quickness that could come about by you pulling on them faster. I like to have one. I like to have one mostly because when you transition out of this into that, it might feel different. It might be a little bit more rigid. But here are just 3 snaffles that I've used, I've had a really good luck with. But this middle one is definitely this Bob Avila Professional's Choice snaffle is one that I would recommend. Price point about 50 bucks. You can get a lot done, and I think even from young horses to old horses is a great snaffle. So if you like this video of me explaining these snaffles, why to buy one and why not to, please like this video and subscribe to the Startup Cowboy channel.